The doors to the courtroom swung wide, and in that moment, a ripple of tension filled the air. Cameras flashed furiously. Reporters whispered in hurried tones, and everyone in the room turned their eyes toward one woman who demanded attention without uttering a single word: Robyn Brown. She came in calm, but with an unmistakable fire in her eyes. Today wasn't some other day of hearings or negotiations. It was the day the truth would come out. The best day Kody Brown could never have prepared for. From the very first step into that courtroom, Robyn exuded strength. The echoes of her heels across the polished floor sounded louder than any murmurs around her. Every other eye in the room gravitated toward her, some with admiration and others with anticipation. At home, cameras captured it all: the squared shoulders, the resolute set of the jaw, the gleam of determination in the eyes. This was not the Robyn that the fans had only seen on television, smiling and soft. This was justice and the truth, ready to stare into deception's face. Kody Brown fidgeted with his tie across the courtroom, his usually calm and composed demeanor breaking. Beads of sweat congregated at his temple. He had faced many public moments before, but something was off about today. Robyn wasn't just a co-star or family member. She was now the focal point in a legal storm that he couldn't control. For years, Kody had presented an image of authority and composure, but it would start to crumble today. The judge brought the session to order, and silence fell like an iron curtain. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation. Everyone knew this wasn't going to be some other family argument. This was years of tension, secrets, and unresolved issues coming full circle. Fans online watched with bated breath, the many streaming live, comments flooding in with speculations and predictions. "Is Robyn going to finally speak the truth?" one comment read. "Kody won't know what hit him," another said. Robyn's attorney stood up, holding a stack of files and evidence. With a calm, confident voice, the presentation began. Documents, recordings, and messages never seen by the public before that day. Every piece of evidence fell like a hammer, destroying bricks of the secret life Kody so carefully constructed over the years. Muffled gasps whispered through the courtroom as some leaned forward to hear everything. Even the judge's reaction changed. He slightly raised his eyebrows, signaling that what came out was large and undeniable. The first wave was financial records. For years, Kody had been seen as the decision-maker, the patriarch, the one guiding the family, but Robyn's team presented proof that several key financial decisions had been made without transparency. Bank statements, contracts, and expense reports underlined discrepancies that belied Kody's public claims. Every sheet, every detail, painted a picture of manipulation that some had long suspected, but now could no longer deny. As Robyn sat, serene, waiting for her turn to speak, no raised voices or dramatic reenactments were required. The evidence was louder than any words could be, and each revelation struck like a thunderclap in the courtroom. Kody shifted uncomfortably one moment longer. His attempts at composure couldn't hold as the realization slowly set in that the walls of his carefully created image were beginning to crumble. Tensions rose as text messages were unveiled that directly contradicted what Kody had said earlier. Conversations that Kody thought were private were now front and center. Witnesses who would not speak earlier were ready to testify, giving credence to Robyn's claims and further blowing the lid off the narrative Kody had long aimed to keep shut. Casual spectators and media personnel alike had filled the room, and it became a theater of shock and awe. Every eye was on Robyn, every ear tuned to her words, and every mind racing to process the gravity of the revelations. One of the more dramatic moments came when Robyn herself was allowed to have her say. Rising from her seat, confidence seemed to emanate from her posture. She did not shout. She did not wildly gesticulate. Instead, every word cut like a well-placed arrow. "The truth has a way of revealing itself," she said, her gaze never leaving Kody's. "For years, decisions were made behind closed doors. For years, the family was left in the dark. But today, that ends." The courtroom fell silent, hanging on every syllable. Even Kody's attorney appeared momentarily stunned. The voice of Robyn, calm but commanding, was weighted with years of frustration and resilience. She went into the inconsistencies, the hidden agendas, and the decisions that had led to turmoil within the family. Her words were backed up by irrefutable proof, a combination of records, witness statements, and first-hand accounts that left little room for denial. To viewers at home, it was the instant reality TV history collided with real-life justice. The media frenzy outside was already spiraling out of control. Social media blew up with reactions. Fans declared Robyn a hero, saying her courage was unmatched and legendary. Hashtags about her resolute strength went trending worldwide. Memes, reactions, and video clips swirled around the web at warp speed. To many, this wasn't just a show and tell. This was a master class on how to say no to the lies and yes to truth, even when the stakes were insurmountable. Period. Kody, on the other hand, was visibly shaken. His usual defenses, charm, deflection, humor, were worthless against Robyn's preparation and poise. With each revelation, it seemed the noose got tighter around him. The very woman he had underestimated now held all the power. And the courtroom, physical and virtual, witnessed a change in the dynamic they had assumed all these years. Robyn Brown was no longer just one member of the family. She represented accountability, courage, and undeniable truth. The weight of what had transpired came to rest on every person present in the room as the first session of the hearing closed. Robyn had not merely stepped into the courtroom. She had stepped it up, dominated it, and started to nip at the threads of a story stitched together with secrets and control. Kody sat motionlessly, knowing that today was a turning point, not only here in this courtroom, but also for the fans, family, and the world beyond. It was an electrifying session for the online audience participating in comments. Robyn just won the first round. Kody has no chance now. This is unbelievable. The energy was palpable. Robyn rose, exposing hidden truths and squarely facing Kody. With undeniable evidence, a story to be remembered for years to come. And yet, this was only the beginning. The courtroom had set the stage. The evidence had begun its work, and Robyn had made it crystal clear. She was here to expose the truth, no matter the cost. Everybody was left on tenterhooks for the next session, where Kody would be compelled to respond, along with more explosive revelations. One thing was sure: a new, unforgettable chapter of the Brown family saga had just started. The courtroom was still reeling from the earlier explosive session. Robyn Brown had entered like a tempest. However, the mood changed. It was time for Kody Brown to react. The anticipation was palpable in the courtroom. Kody Brown had always been composed, confident, and in command. However, today was the first time his facade would crack. As Kody prepared to speak, a strange pause filled the air. His words, which had always fallen so effortlessly and confidently into the camera lens during the reality TV show, faltered. He let a nervous laugh slip out that was quickly muffled into his hand, but the impact was accomplished. Cameras recorded every nervous twitch that crossed his face as he was finally forced to confront the woman who knew him so intimately. Robyn sat calmly in her chair, not blenching. Her eyes were fixed on him, direct and sharp. This was a woman who was prepared for this moment, who would not be deterred by charm, explanation, or distraction. The courtroom was charged with energy, filled with the hum of onlookers' murmurs and the shifting of papers. Then the revelations began. His lawyer presented a timeline of events, revealing the years of clandestine activities. Text messages between Kody and other members of the family were presented, each one contradicting Kody's previous statements to the public. Emails were presented, revealing financial choices that had circumvented the input of other members of the family. Each bit of new information struck Kody like a ton of bricks. The confident, paternal figure began to crack. A former family member took to the stand, someone who had purposely shunned the limelight until now. Their account of events was condemning. They described scenarios where Kody had shown preference to others in their family, manipulated others to do his bidding, and withheld knowledge of events that directly affected all of them. Each story told a tale of control and deceit, and the courtroom listened carefully. Whispers rose to shouts in the courtroom, gasping from those who watched from the gallery seats. Robyn could see it all, and yet she held strong, seeing their words justify the case she had built. As Kody answered, his denial or explanation was anything but steady. I didn't mean for it to," he stuttered, before he was interrupted by the judge himself, who reminded him to keep to the truth. However, it was already apparent on whose side truth was. Witness upon witness reinforced discrepancies in his testimonies. There was simply no doubting it. Emails, contracts, and financial statements proved beyond a doubt that he was guilty. One could feel the weight of the pressure surrounding him. Robyn now stood to give her own words. The room quieted. Behind closed doors, decisions have been made all these years, she stated. Decisions that all of us have been affected by. But all of us have been lied to, and all of us are here today to rectify. Each sentence held its weight. This was not just an argument, it was assertion. The attorney continued to present evidence, now dealing with financial imbalances which even his most devoted fans were shocked by. The evidence indicated that Kody had conducted business on his own behalf and in his own financial gain, without involving his family. The amounts were substantial, and the consequence even more so. The audience gasped in shock, their mouths agape. Instead of his usual confidence, Kody displayed frustration and panic. The evidence was pressing down upon him, and he knew it. Meanwhile, social media went haywire outside of the courtroom. Fans were taking every bit of this drama in through screenshots, reaction shots, and theories. "Robyn is unstoppable," said one post. "Kody has finally met his meat." The excitement in the air was palpable, watching fans tune in to every bit of this showdown. For many fans, this session of therapy marked a turning point, not only in regards to the Brown family, but in regards to accountability, even making a difference in families like these. The court proceeding was about to take a drastic turn with the introduction of videos by Robyn's team. The recordings that were presumed to be private were now aired for the judge, jurors, and onlookers. The shocking response on Kody's face was palpable. He looked agitated, with eyes darting nervously about. The confident smirk that was often associated with his television face was nowhere to be found. This time, he had neither a script to fall back on, nor had he any control. Robyn sat calmly in her chair. He did not have to say a word. He had enough presence in that courtroom that he did not need to speak. He had prepared for every possible defense that Brown might offer. Kody Brown was seemingly unwary of the full impact of truth that was about to be brought against him. The judge leaned forward, examining the evidence and listening intently to the testimonies. Even for the judge, it was obvious that the tide was turning. The courtroom was filled with an air of tension, almost electricity. The drama wasn't merely about sibling disputes. It was about power, deception, and unraveling secrets. Yes, a new trial date was set, and new evidence was presented. And new evidence came in the form of new witnesses who had held back in a previous trial, but spoke confidently in the new trial. They agreed on the facts of what Kody was accused of, including his manipulation of family matters, his failure to provide key information, his failure to keep pent-up resentment from building. Each allegation supported Big Robyn's case against him, sending Kody scrambling for a plausible argument against what was being presented. Next, the lawyer representing Robyn shared messages that went against what Kody was seen to be declaring to the press. He had appeared to be a fair man, bequeathing transparency to the world. But he had been presenting a polished image to the world while masking the fact that his reality was vastly different. Every message, every single email, every single paper eroded Kody's believability further. Robyn turned back to the courtroom with a calm but determined tone. "It's not about winning and losing," she said. "It's about truth. It's about accountability. And it's about making sure that no one else within this family, or within any family, has to go through manipulation and deception silence." It was an emotional moment for all who witnessed it. Even Kody's supporters within the gallery were found nodding their heads in agreement with what Robyn said. The interview concluded in deafening silence. Kody collapsed onto the couch, defeated, while Robyn still stood tall, calm, and in full control of what was taking place. Cameras rolled as journalists sought to record every detail, while the roar of social media outside drowned out the sounds of reality. Posts reacted to Robyn's bravery, her prep, and the strength of her nerves. Fans hailed her a heroine, one who had finally faced the man who had controlled the narrative for far too long. As the courtroom began to clear, the meaning of the day was slowly dawning on everyone. Robyn had done much more than reveal the truth. She had completely upended the dynamics at play. Kody, who had been so confident and invincible, had been brought out into the open, before witnesses, a judge, and the world to see. The first rounds of this battle of wits had clearly gone to Robyn's side, yet while there would be much more to this saga, there would be one certainty. Robyn Brown would go on to make a difference that would be felt for years to come. And so with a trend of revelations, testimonials, and irrefutable proof, a conclusion to this saga would be anything but conclusive. The season had ended, but the drama was just getting underway. For those who had been following the series, it was evident that the truth had a voice, and it was Robyn. Kody's reactions, his crumbling facade, and undeniable evidence showed that a landmark moment was hit in the history of reality television. The courtroom tension became almost unbearable. It appeared that every individual in the room held his or her breath in anticipation of what would become proven to be one of the most shocking moments of the trial. In preparation for which Robyn's legal team began preparing in earnest. Camera flashes, note-taking journalists, and vigor on social networks built a buzz in anticipation for which fanatical supporters around the world had been waiting. For Kody's well-crafted public image to be challenged by conclusive proof. While Robyn sat calmly, perusing her notes, Kody shifted anxiously in his seat. The calmness he had always presented to the world was replaced with a tension that radiated his inner turmoil. He had faced many difficult situations before, but this time around, every statement he made, every paper he signed, every shred of evidence would be directed right at him with no place to hide. The first bombshell was financial documents. Kody's financial dealings, without involving other members of his family, had been made clear through a series of financial documents that included bank statements and receipts. The documents attracted attention through minute points, such as where Kody had made significant financial moves that had implications for their properties. He had done this without involving other members of his family. Such moves had significant impacts. The courtroom erupted in shock as each piece of evidence was revealed. Some onlookers muttered in astonishment, while others sat on the edge of their seats in stunned silence. Kody's complexion turned ashen as he comprehended the scope of the revelations. This was no simple disagreement. It was a deliberate disintegration of a truth he had spent all these years weaving. The revelation was more explosive than anything yet. The recordings were confidential and contained statements from Kody's own voice. The answer was aired from recordings where he had purportedly said things he had previously denied. The reality was devastating. People murmured, but soon erupted in shock. People covered mouths in shock, while reporters spoke among themselves, having difficulty grasping the extent of the evidence. Robyn was not flustered by Kody's awkwardness. She didn't have to be, because the truth was on her side. The strategy of the team of lawyers representing Robyn was to explain the context of each recording and how it supported the claims of secrecy, manipulation, and control. Every piece of information was more damaging than the last, setting Kody further on the defensive. Then came the testimonies of eyewitnesses who had hitherto operated behind the scenes, but who now decided to come out. People who had hitherto been linked to Kody's family, but had seemingly shown reluctance to be on record, were now put on the stand. Testimonies were quite damning. There was favoritism, poor management, and decisions that seemed to favor none but Kody. In fact, there was a case where Kody had withheld information to gain control over family issues. The courtroom was filled with whispers. Robyn was seated, calm, and seemed to take all the testimonies to make her case while not losing her cool. This emotional turmoil heightened when financial documents were associated with these testimonies. It made it clear that Kody's reputation of being fair and open-minded in front of everyone was just an illusion. Each move he had made, every choice he had kept under wraps, now had irrefutable proof of its effect on the family. The overlay of documents, audios, and testimonies left little room for question. The truth was being laid bare. Kody tried to defend himself. He stuttered in an attempt to explain, and even joked to ease the increasing tensions in the room. But nothing could stop the flow of evidence that rebutted every defense he tried to offer. It was the first time when, instead of his confident facade, which had delighted fans for so many years, only a man, facing up to his actions, stood before him. The courtroom was abuzz with the final offering of evidence, that being the timeline evidence proving Kody's behavior was directly connected to the difficulties the family was facing. And every move he had made, whether it was financial mismanagement or making decisions that caused problems for the kids and wives, had been documented and proven. It was a wow moment, one that had the audience, and the more than likely the Browning family, in shock. It was a truth bomb. The judge leaned forward, scrutinizing all the documentation, sound files, and deposition trials. All eyes in the courtroom were on her as she digested what had been placed before her. Kody could no longer hide his discomfort in his seat, sweating bullets because of the pressure he felt from his carefully planned actions, all being laid bare before his very eyes. He realized he had wrongly underestimated Robyn Brown, and this had proved to be calamitous for him. The emotional climax attained its peak when Robyn stood up to address the court. Her voice was calm and full of authority and conviction. For years, truth was concealed. For years, choices were made behind closed doors, and these choices affected not only our financial conditions but also our lives. She said, with every word suspended in midair, "Today, we set things right. Today, we confront truth." And her eyes were right on Kody, who failed to meet her eyes. The live audience of fans couldn't believe their eyes. Social media erupted with comments, singing Robyn's praises for her bravery and composure. "Robyn Brown is a legend," read one post. "She has exposed Kody fully," chimed another. Video of their session went live on various platforms and erupted across the internet, with comments flooding in from all over the planet. The world had just experienced not only a courtroom showdown. Kody's efforts to interrupt or offer an explanation were also squashed by the judge, who reminded that all accusations must be proven. Each time Kody tried, the team from Robyn had even more evidence, tightening the net. Kody was frustrated, and it quickly became apparent to the whole court that he had nothing with which to defend himself. The conclusive part of the meeting came when the judge presented the most incriminating evidence, which was a host of emails and messages indicating that Kody was holding vital information that influenced the decision of the Browns. It was evident that Kody was cheating not just his family, but the whole world, giving a false impression of being just when, in reality, he was being selfish. This was a time when the courtroom was holding its breath, including Kody's fans. As the session ended, the room was filled with a mixture of awe and incredulity. Robyn had done nothing less than lay bare the truth, not only the evidence, but the entire truth, after a lifetime of deception, within the span of a mere courtroom session. Kody was shell-shocked, speechless, as Robyn held on to her composure. The effect of this event was immediate on the outside environment. Social media sites erupted with comments, videos, and views. Fans began to consider Robyn a hero, who represented justice, courage, and accountability. Hashtags showing Robyn's commendable act were trending all over the globe. Reality television fans and viewers were amazed by the historic incident that took place in this courtroom. For the Brown family, change came in this session. Secrets that had been hidden away for many years were suddenly out in the open, leading to a confrontation that could no longer be avoided. But Robyn had changed the dynamics completely, showing that preparation, strength, and a commitment to the truth could conquer deceit, even in high-profile cases. The courtroom was now emptier, and the energy in the air was palpable. Media pundits were already hypothesizing over what could happen later on, and his fans were discussing what all this could possibly mean to Kody, who was now left alone to realize that he could no longer ignore the reality of what was happening around him. The first big revelations were over, and all were left with one simple fact in mind. Robyn Brown had shattered the illusion, and Kody Brown had no defense. However, the judicial struggle was nowhere nearing its end, but the highlight of this session marked the beginning of something very important. The evidence, the testimonies, and the explicit presence of Robyn had left a turning point in history, which would later be remembered in the years to come. The courtroom was thick with silence as the fallout began from the explosive revelations of the previous night. Robyn Brown had unleashed a maelstrom of evidence that had left Kody Brown shell-shocked, and now the after-effects of it were resonating through every soul within the courtroom. The onlookers, media personnel, and even members of their family were feeling the impact of what had transpired. This was no longer a fight about funding and semantics. It was about truth and what was slowly peeling away from that carefully constructed veil. Kody, sitting opposite Robyn in court, struggled to compose himself. Gone was his usual charm and confidence. Instead, he nervously fidgeted with his hands and took shallow breaths. Each piece of paperwork that came before him, and each testimony that was given, and each audio played took its toll on him and chipped away at that very well-reserved facade that he had maintained for all these years. It was for the first time that Kody Brown looked vulnerable and unsure of how to react while being closely analyzed by all of them. Robyn, on the other hand, is calm and composed. She has been looking forward to this day for many years, and has prepared herself accordingly to take on Kody in a courtroom where image is everything. However, truth triumphs. She exudes self-confidence and poise, making it very clear to all who are present in the courtroom She's ready, and truth is on her side. The judge sensed the barrier in the courtroom and called a temporary recess for the two groups to compose themselves. However, in the brief interlude in the courtroom, the emotional toll was palpable. The members of the family had moments to whisper to each other. Some had tears in their eyes as they tried not to cry. The strength shown by Robyn when she confronted Kody had revealed secrets in the family. It had also provided the members a chance to see the truth they had suspected all along. Outside of the courtroom, Twitter went wild. Robyn's fans cheered her on for her strength and tenacity. Tweets and posts filled cyberspace. Robyn Brown is unstoppable. Finally, Kody is exposed. This is a historic moment for reality TV. Public sentiment on Twitter was no different from what was being experienced in the courtroom. Everyone was enthralled, motivated, and amazed at this drama. Kody's defense took center stage when the session was resumed. However, his so-called defense was quite weak. Everything that Kody said was followed by defense from Robyn's legal team, which was proven wrong by irrefutable proof. Emails, texts, and accounts were analyzed, showing loopholes in Kody's defense. Witnesses also reiterated what they had previously testified, and Kody was clearly frustrated, his voice louder and strained in his bid to regain control. Although everything he said was proving to be against his defense. However, the effect on Kody was not the only display of the after effects of the events at the Brown family. Children, siblings, and spouses were all watching the events take place before the court, with a mixture of emotions that ranged from shock to the obvious relief. Many could attest that the events unfolding in the courtroom were a form of revenge, as secrets that had been suppressed for quite a number of years were finally being dealt with. Robyn's calmness is still a stark reminder of how calm she was in comparison to the turbulence and drama surrounding her. Robyn had the art of allowing evidence to just speak for itself, while Kody's integrity was falling apart. It was not just a useful strategy, but also a motivator for the viewing public, because she appeared calm and confident while facing such stern opposition. The judge, realizing the passions that had been aroused in the courtroom, reminded Kody of the need to be honest, decent, and respectful in the courtroom setting. With every attempt he made to shift the focus away or to justify what he had done, he reminded the court that he needed to keep to the facts. With every challenge made with new evidence presented by Team Robyn, which left Kody isolated in the courtroom. The courtroom was charged with the unspoken awareness that the moral high ground had been taken over by Robyn. One of the witnesses shared the moment where Kody deliberately chose not to share certain information, impacting the family's decision-making process. The witness's voice shook, but the effect was clear. All of the jurors in the courtroom held their breath as they absorbed the meaning of the evidence presented. Robyn nodded in appreciation for the witness's courage, but more so for the truth of her claims being supported in court. Kody looked awkward, unable to deny the evidence being presented. The media attention heightened the repercussions. Analysts were discussing the importance of this particular therapy session. The fact was acknowledged that Kody Brown's image had been badly dented. The headlines spoke about Robyn's courage and her extensive preparation. She was now portrayed as the beacon of truth among a family that had been enveloped in secrecy for all these years. The videos of this therapy session were shared on social networks, with praise for her composure and level of brilliance. As time went on in the day, it also became clear that it has been a stage, not just for a trial, but a war of character too. Robyn's unflinching character has been an exemplar of preparation, patience, and truth. Kody's fall has been evident due to a lack of truth, mishandling, and control. It has been a class on taking responsibility for every individual watching. In the last stretch of the session, Robyn finally spoke to the court. She was composed, yet very authoritative, holding all the truths revealed by her. "This is not about seeking revenge or gain," she declared. "It is about telling the truth, about confronting reality, and about making sure that all the choices regarding this family happen because of truth and fairness." There was utter silence in the courtroom as everyone was fixated on her words. Kody's lawyer was even caught off guard by her genius posture. The trial ended with a great impact being felt. Robyn had stepped into the courtroom and done more than present evidence. She had tipped the moral scales. Kody was sitting in stunned silence as he realized that his efforts at spin control had failed him. The audience was taking note that this was a momentous day. Robyn had revealed the truth and proved that she had the courage that many people lacked. On social media, reaction to events outside the courtroom had come soon and overwhelmingly. People were rallying to Robyn for courage and grace under pressure. Analysts pointed to this courtroom dramatic showdown in Brown versus Brady as a watershed, noting that Kody had damaged his credibility irreparably in this hearing. As for the Brown family, this drama represented more than its fair share of catharsis, a reckoning of sorts. And all of it cathartic because they dared to confront a truth they knew all along, but chose to repudiate until now. For Robyn, this visit was an acknowledgement of all that she had done for so long in preparation for it. She had not only had to contend with a powerful adversary in terms of her legal case, but with a man who had been defining himself in a particular way in the family for a long time. While the courtroom emptied out and the media buzz continued, there was one truth that stood out. This judicial aftermath would be felt for years to come. Kody lost, Robyn won, and secrets were laid bare, making for a defining moment in the story of the Brown family saga. Fans, viewers, and members alike knew they were witnessing more than reality TV. They were learning a powerful lesson in courage, in integrity, in the strength of truth. The drama, shock, and emotional effect of this meeting has opened the way for what will be the next chapter. Though legal battles still hung in the balance, Robyn has already gained a moral victory. She has earned respect, revealed deceit, and taken back the story, where Kody has had to face the fallout of his actions from before the entire world. As the courtroom lights dimmed and the cameras ceased to roll, one thing was on everyone's mind, and that was the fact that Robyn Brown had not only won the battle of evidence, but the battle of hearts, minds, and integrity as well. The courtroom was tense, with every eye glued as the session for this dramatic showdown began. Every breath, in and out, was laden with anticipation. Robyn Brown had spent a lot of time collecting evidence and collating witnesses, while Kody Brown looked forward to this moment, the culmination of all that had come before regarding revelations and exposures. It wasn't simply a legal confrontation. It was for truth and integrity, for public perception. Everybody knew the stakes were unprecedented. From the very second the judge called the session to order, it crackled with intensity. Robyn sat calmly with determination, her back straight and her gaze unwavering. Kody sat quite oppositely, fidgeting in his seat, visibly anxious and doubtful. He was haunted by the weight of what came out of these sessions: financial documents, recordings, witness testimonies, pending over him like a storm cloud. For so long, he had projected confidence, control, and authority. Today, those projections were really crumbling under the relentless pressure of undeniable truth. The session began with a summary of the evidence brought in earlier hearings. The judge spoke in a measured tone of authority as he reviewed the documents and recordings, along with testimonies already experienced in the courtroom and that held the public spellbound. Kody listened intently, but the strain showed. His hands slightly quivered as he tried to organize his notes. His usual smooth composure was nowhere to be found. For the first time, The reality of his actions, and the public exposure of those actions, was beginning to sink in. The next and final pieces of evidence presented by Robyn's attorney were documents and recordings that tied a bow around each and every one of the revelations brought to light over the past sessions. These not only confirmed Kody's inconsistent statements, but also the far-reaching deception and favoritism that had plagued the Brown family for years. The audience in the courtroom constantly gasped, and the witnesses were nodding in agreement amidst an almost palpable tension in the air. Each new detail was adding to Robyn's case, with Kody's credibility still compromising the more the case developed. The most explosive moment came when a recording of Kody's secret financial decisions with a close confidant was played in court. The audio was clear, unedited, and revealing. Kody openly admitted to actions he had publicly denied. The effect was immediate. Spectators whispered in shock. Journalists furiously took note, and Kody's face went white. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, unable to meet Robyn's calm, steadfast gaze. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath, full well aware that this was the place where the tide had turned, irrevocably. Robyn, graceful and composed, finally stood before the court. She spoke calmly, steadily, and authoritatively, the weight of each word resounding with self-assurance. "For too long, the truth has been hidden," she said. "For too long, decisions have been made in secret that have affected not only the family, but the integrity of our legacy. Today, we set the record straight. Today, accountability has a voice, and that voice will not be silenced." The courtroom fell silent, hanging on her every word. Even Kody's attorney appeared momentarily struck by the clarity and force of her delivery. The session became more emotional, with more witnesses testifying one after another. Former associates, family friends, and insiders corroborated evidence to paint a clearer picture of secrecy, manipulation, and favoritism. Their testimonies were candid and often emotional to set in perspective the decisions and actions that had caused internal conflict for several years. Each witness gave credence to Robyn's case and left Kody more cornered with no credible rebuttal. The judge listened attentively, very observant of each piece of evidence that was presented. Questions were to the point, seeking clarification of facts, and the proceedings needed to be fair and transparent. Kody could hardly answer in a credible manner, his eloquence lost under the scrutiny of the courtroom and undeniable facts presented. With each attempt at a defense, he found counter-evidence, and every time he found himself flustered and visibly defeated. As the session reached its climax, Robyn's lawyer presented a detailed timeline of how Kody's actions related to family conflicts, financial mismanagement, and emotional distress in the household. The timeline was thorough and exact, impossible to refute. It showed that a pattern of behavior had been affecting several members of the family over many years. The audience in the courtroom was in shock. Even those who had supported Kody before could not help but recognize the clarity and weight of the evidence against him. By this time, Kody was drained emotionally. The confidence that usually characterized him was replaced by frustration, stress, and a growing realization that he had been outmaneuvered in all ways. On the other hand, Robyn remained composed, an embodiment of authority and strength that had seen her through the earlier sessions. Her calmness amidst incredible pressure to key value was a testament to how prepared and determined she was. The most dramatic moment in this courtroom drama came when the presiding judge went directly to Kody and acknowledged that Robyn's case had come across in depth and credibility. While legal judgments may be pending, moral and public victory had certainly emerged. Kody had been fully exposed, his efforts to control the narrative had been dismantled, and his credibility publicly undermined. It was evident to all within earshot that Robyn Brown stood before the court as the winner in a contest of integrity, evidence, and moral authority. Online viewers went into a frenzy of accolades. The social media was abuzz with hashtags praising Robyn for her guts and tactical acumen. Clips of her testimony, how composed she had been, and the exposing evidence went viral. Comments described her as a force of truth and symbol of accountability. Comments noted that it was a historic courtroom showdown. For many, this session marked the tipping point in reality TV history. Even within the Brown family, the effect was deep. Long-suffering family members were now seeing a very public recognition of the very truth they had lived with for so long. Exposure of actions that were to be kept hidden, such as the affairs, created feelings of vindication and relief that secrecy and manipulation could no longer head their lives. Robyn had done more than confront Kody. She had given room for the truth and accountability to take root. Dramatic and symbolic were the last minutes of the session. Robyn got to speak to the court once more. Steady her tone was, commanding her presence. "Today is not about revenge," she said. "It is about truth, integrity, and the courage to stand up for what is right. The evidence has spoken, the facts are clear, and justice has a voice. Let this be a reminder that deception cannot hide forever." And with that, her words began to reverberate in the courtroom, leaving an indelible mark on all who were present. As the judge brought the session to a close, it was obvious that Robyn had won something quite extraordinary. Kody had been found literally standing, but figuratively exposed. The courtroom had indeed just experienced a tour de force of preparation, poise, and chutzpah. Much more than a legal victory, this was an emotional, moral, and symbolic one. She had taken back control, had regained credibility, and set a precedent for righting deception. Outside the courtroom, reactions were instant and overwhelming. Her triumph was hailed by fans, journalists, and analysts alike. Headlines celebrated her courage and the historic nature of the revelations. Social media exploded with praise as it shared clips of the commentary and reactions of viewers from all over the world. "Robyn Brown destroys Kody in court," declared one headline. "The truth finally prevails," said another. The public response reinforced the fact, known well within the four walls of the courtroom: Robyn had won. For Kody, those consequences were both immediate and far-reaching. His image highly undermined, his credibility challenged, and his control over the family narrative irreversibly shaken. The courtroom had stripped away the carefully constructed persona he had maintained for years. For those watching, it was a stark lesson in the power of truth and accountability. Yet Robyn's victory extended far beyond the courtroom. She had proved that hard work, courage, and unyielding integrity can make the impossible become possible. She inspired millions of viewers with her course of action, showing that it is possible and necessary to stand up against deception. She became an icon of empowerment, resilience, and justice. As the courtroom cleared and the media circus continued outside, it was clear about one thing: the Brown family saga had just reached a turning point. Robyn Brown had not only taken the high road, but had also declared a historic victory. The dust had been thrown, the evidence had spoken, and the truth shone bright. Kody Brown was exposed, and Robyn took her place as the absolute winner. And as the last cameras caught the court, Robyn walked out, head high, a picture of poise, confidence, and victory. History had been made. The world had taken a lesson in courage, accountability, and the unmistakable power of truth. One thing was for sure: for fans, for family, and for the millions who followed each twist and turn, Robyn Brown's victory would be remembered for years to come.